World War III is scheduled to launch in early access during autumn of this year, meaning there really isn't much time left before the game is in our hands. And despite that fast approaching release date, there still is a lot we don't know about this title, and we still haven't even seen any gameplay. Happily, the developers, the Farm 51, decided to share more during an extensive Reddit AMA. They have also revealed details of an up-and-coming gameplay demo to be featured at this year's Gamescom, so strap yourselves in as there's a lot of news and information to go over in this video. Hey, Pete here, hope you're all keeping well and having a lovely day. In this video I want to talk about World War III, the indie, multiplayer-only, modern military FPS that in a previous video I said was worth keeping your eyes on. In that video I mentioned that it might act as a good alternative to those people not interested in Battlefield 5, and I can also see it offering a nice break from those of you into Rainbow Six Siege. Well, I've been keeping an eye on the progress of this game and we're going to go over that for you now. Work on World War III started with just 10 to 15 people, which has now been expanded to around 50. For what it's worth, the devs are big fans of the older Battlefield games, and I think we can expect World War III to take some inspiration from those titles. Though not specifically confirmed, we can expect the game's price on Steam will be very affordable and certainly less than $60. Those who join the game during early access will receive some kind of reward. Expect it to be a cosmetic that all the players can see in game. Though this is subject to change, the devs are currently planning on 64, 48 and 32 player map variants. Maps will also be approximately 1 kilometer square, or as the devs also put it, imagine a few blocks of a capital city. These maps are very closely based on real cities, and maps with vehicles will be much larger. We've heard rumours about this, but now the devs have confirmed that the game's recon mode is similar to Battle Royale. However, World War III's take on it is urban, objective and squad based. We'll be getting more information on that very soon. In the Warzone mode, players will be able to respawn an unlimited number of times. In recon though, each player will only have one life. However, the devs have said that there is a twist involved here, so perhaps players can come back in some other way or be healed from a down state perhaps. In the current build of the game, matches are lasting between 30 to 60 minutes, however the devs are still testing on this. If you were hoping the game would boast the same level of destruction as Rainbow Six Siege or Battlefield 5, then I think you're going to be disappointed with this news. World War III will have some destructible props, but that's about it. Online destruction is apparently very difficult to implement when using the Unreal Engine, especially for these indie studios. The game's ballistic system does take into account material depth and density and will let some projectiles through. It will be done sensibly for this game, so don't expect all bullets to penetrate all objects, but it is a thing that will feature in the game. When it comes to weapon attachments and how they affect the guns, the devs have described the system as very versatile. There will be different stocks, barrels, sights, magazines, grips, laser modules and flashlights. Vehicle customization was also touched upon, with different armor types, turrets, remote control weapon stations and active protection systems all mentioned. Even a basic weapon has its advantages. Since it has no attachments, it's relatively light, so you can run faster in game. World War III will boast all of the weapon types that you'd expect. There are assault rifles, SMGs, LMGs, precision sniper rifles, explosive weapons, shotguns and pistols, and there are also different types of grenades and gadgets like claymores, semtex and much more. We do have a number of confirmed sniper rifles such as the T5000, G29 and Tor 12.7, and those will all be featured in early access when it comes out. The devs are also planning to add the AUM and the M200 later down the line. Players will be able to choose whatever weapons they want regardless of the faction that they're playing as. Though this is perhaps less realistic, it does mean a bit more freedom and choice for the players in the game. There is going to be a test range in World War III the game at some point, and this will be an area where players can practice using the weaponry before going into a round and facing real opponents. There aren't going to be any classes in World War III. Players can pick and choose what equipment they want without being limited by a class choice. Now, to help keep things balanced, there will be a weight system in the game which will influence many other different mechanics that there are there. And as I said earlier, even with a basic weapon, it does have advantages in that it will make you relatively light and a bit quicker on your feet. The devs didn't divulge much information about this, but they did say that they're designing the game with rock, paper, scissors in mind. Now, the shooting mechanics won't be as realistic as you might see in a game like Arma 3 or Escape from Tarkov. However, there are still ballistic curves and overall weapon characteristics that are close to the real thing. The devs said that the realistic effective ranges had to be scaled down in order to keep various types of weapons still viable, and there will also be hit markers in the game. Now, this one is actually quite interesting. The bullets are currently affected by wind, drag and different surface simulation. However, the devs have admitted that they've gone a little bit overboard with it, so expect some changes to this to keep the gameplay fun. Guns will have a learnable recoil pattern, meaning it's possible to predict how the gun will kick. This is how CSGO does it, and we're seeing other mainstream franchises like COD and Battlefield do this as well. It's good because it means that players that invest the time into the game can learn the recoil patterns of weapons. However, the downside is potential macro abuse, so it will be interesting to see how they handle these learnable recoil patterns. Though this will no doubt be tweaked during the early access play of the game, the devs are currently experimenting with a time to kill that allows players to flank effectively, but there is also a personal armor equipment that gives a lot of protection from the front side. Players do have to position themselves towards enemy fire for that personal armor to take effect, and I don't know if it's just me, but it sounds like it could be a little bit annoying to go up against, but I guess we'll see when we get hands-on with the game. Players won't be able to shoot while falling or jumping, which makes bunny hopping pretty much useless in this game. The armor on the tank is of course going to be pretty much bulletproof from the standard soldier, though it is going to be possible to damage the vehicle optics and also the remote control weapon stations with standard ammo. If you remember from Bad Company 2, there were weapon stations spotted around the maps where you could go on them and perhaps use the UAV. So it sounds like there's going to be something akin to that in this game, and it also means if you're running as a soldier, while you aren't necessarily going to be able to take out a tank, if you don't have an RPG, you will still be able to take out its optical systems and make it harder for that tank to be able to fire back, so you won't always feel helpless when running around as a soldier. If you don't have the necessary gear to actually just take out the tank, you are still going to be able to do some kind of damage and make it harder for the tank to be able to see you. It's not going to be possible to fully repair a damaged tank in this game. However, the optics and the remote control weapon systems that we talked about just a moment ago, if they do get taken out, they can be repaired over time. On the topic of road kills, yes indeed, you will be able to run players over with a vehicle in this game. Players will also be able to control a few flying drones, and there are also plans to add drone helicopters like the Dragonfly and MQ-8C Fire Scout. These drones can be shot down using normal weaponry. It will be possible to lean in this game as we see in Rainbow Six Siege and PUBG, which will mean you can lean around cover without exposing your character's entire body. This lean will be input based, so the player will have full control over it rather than it being automatic when you go and stand next to cover. Both soldiers and heavy vehicles have customizable levels of armor, with heavier types of armor causing movement speed to decrease. If you've played Rainbow Six Siege, you'll be used to this kind of system already. World War III does not have a stamina system, so players can sprint for as long as they like. However, the weight system, which considers your weapon and armor, will affect your player movement speed. There will be standard XP based progression that rewards the time spent in the game, all very good. However, the team is not planning on forcing players to endure hundreds of hours of gameplay for a certain weapon or part, as in-game currency will be used to purchase weapons. Now, I want to talk a little bit about microtransactions here, but we're going to come on to them in just a moment. Firstly, additional maps, they're going to be free as the devs don't want to split the community, which is of course a very good thing. Cosmetic personalization will include uniforms, helmets, headgears, camos, flags, badges, body and face paints and emblems too. It's also quite likely that there will be even more options during the early access. On the topic of microtransactions, cosmetic microtransactions do seem inevitable down the line. What with the game's promise of the free maps, and the developers have stated that we won't see any microtransactions during early access. There will be an in-game currency, but players won't be able to buy it with real money. That's very important. If microtransactions are added sometime down the line, they will be for cosmetic-only unlocks. Nothing gameplay altering can be bought with real cash, so there should be no pay-to-win issues. That's always a concern, particularly when they talked about that progression system and not forcing players to play hundreds of hours of gameplay. And of course, this isn't a free-to-play game. You are going to have to pay money to play it, so I don't want to see any pay-to-win elements, and we're hearing the right things here from the developers. Interestingly also, the team is working on night vision goggles as well as night maps. However, nothing is properly confirmed, and so it might not make its way into the final finished product, but I thought it was interesting to see they are at least looking into it. The devs have also said they're keeping tabs on where the game is going to be most popular, and aim to add those countries and nationalities that players want to see down the line. For now, both the British and American expeditionary forces have been confirmed. So there will indeed be a squad system with a squad leader and their team, and the leader plays an important role apparently, and we're going to learn more about that soon. Squads will be made up of 4 to 5 players, with the devs still tweaking this number as they experiment with the balance. Okay, so this one's really interesting. Airstrikes, tanks, IFVs, recon drones and other artillery can be called in when a certain score target is met. This is achieved by playing as a squad and securing those objectives. This is quite similar to the new system they're introducing in Battlefield 5. The squad leader in Battlefield 5, for example, can call in a V1 rocket or a special tank. So it's interesting to see this power being put into the hands of the squad leader in 2 games coming out this year. Players will have health that only partially replenishes on its own. A medkit will be needed to get back up to full health. Again, some parallels here with Battlefield 5, who are also kind of implementing this whole scarcity and war of attrition, where you need to rely on the support player and the medic to get you back up to full health and ammo. You will need to rely on your squad in this game to be able to keep on fighting, and this will mean tactical elements in there like resupplying from team members. However, you will not be able to revive one another. Again, this is another intriguing thing about this game. Friendly fire is confirmed, so you will have to be careful when you're spraying and praying and chucking grenades around everywhere not to take out your friendlies. The devs have also categorically stated that this game is just not for lone wolf players, and there's an emphasis on squad cooperation and players being rewarded for fulfilling their role in that squad and being a good squad mate. Squad leaders will be able to issue orders using in-game mechanics, and presumably this acts in a similar way again to Battlefield, where those objectives can be marked and certain phrases can be said quickly, so that your squad mates know where the squad leader wants them to go and what he wants them to capture. There will not be a built-in voice chat at the beginning of early access for this game, but the developers have said that they're considering whether or not to add it further down the line. It's an interesting kind of thing because a lot of people do use Discord and TeamSpeak these days, but with a game that is so kind of set on team play and playing the objective, perhaps it really would be necessary to have that in there for when you're playing with other people online that you don't necessarily know. There will be an additional reward in the game for the most valuable players, and I think what they're doing here is implementing this to reward teamwork. The world map, which allows you to see the entire war and how it's advancing, is an interesting device and one that I'm eager to learn more about. We now know that by doing well in a match, players gain strategic resources which can be distributed among certain areas of the map. Gather enough of those resources and you'll gain additional bonuses for your faction. I'm assuming this means bonuses like XP boosts and nothing that will actually affect gameplay. This game will use dedicated servers, which is great news, let's face it, but there will not be a server browser during the first stages of the early access. The devs say that peer-to-peer would not be an option as there are too many players and too many vehicles. The US and EU are the current confirmed server locations for this game, however there are probably going to be more announced at some stage. During early access, players won't be able to host their own custom servers, however they're saying that that's a maybe down the line and it's a feature they are looking into. There won't be a ranked or competitive mode at the launch during early access for this game either. Again, that is something they're saying could be considered down the line. Another thing that won't be in the early access release for this game but might be released and considered down the line is modding support. When it comes to anti-cheat, they say there will be a trustworthy anti-cheat system in place, but the devs won't go into any details yet. Clan support is planned to be implemented at some stage during early access. When the game first becomes available, you will be limited though to creating a squad in a lobby and then joining any match with those friends, but at some stage you will be able to actually form and join clans in this game. Which leads us on nicely to esports. Though it will be some time down the line, the developers do have some very big ideas around esports. A spectator mode and team deathmatch game types are possible and are likely to appear during the first year after launch. Do remember this game is launching in early access, so a lot of these things won't be immediately available but are going to come sometime after launch. There will be an Fov Slider, widescreen and 4K support, and the devs are aware of the demand for colorblind options. The plan is for this game to be in early access for a whole 12 months, potentially even 15 months. So during Gamescom 2018 next month, it takes place from August the 21st to 25th, the World War III developers will be present there and will be available to meet and talk to you. What's more, if you are attending Gamescom, you will be able to perhaps get hands-on with the game as it will be there in a playable state. So hopefully you'll get a good idea then if you are attending as to whether this is a game you really do want to be keeping an eye on, or perhaps it might even put you off it. On the topic of a beta, we should be hearing about that very, very soon, and we're also expecting a gameplay trailer later this month. It's going to be a very busy time for the developers during these months leading up to the game's early access launch. So there you go, there's lots of new information about the new game World War III coming into early access later this year. I'm cautiously optimistic about the game. Of course, it is an indie team working on it, it's not a AAA game, but it sounds like their hearts and heads are in the right place here. They're not implementing any pay to win, and they want maps to be free and available for everyone, which is always a good thing. The truth is, I'm remaining cautiously optimistic about the game. You can't get too carried away about any game when all you've seen is a trailer, a cinematic trailer for it at that. We do of course need to see some gameplay about it to really understand what their vision is for this game. But like I say, I'm remaining cautiously optimistic. It sounds like a game I might be interested in when it comes out, and I'm going to be keeping a close eye on it. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. We're in a time here where so many games are going to a more historic time period or a futuristic time period, and here we have a game that's coming out and is set kind of in the modern day era. I know a lot of people miss the modern day battlefields, so perhaps this game might kind of scratch that itch for you. Thank you ever so much for watching, do take care, and until next time, adios amigos. So here's a chance to catch up on a few of my latest videos if you missed them.